If you are a non-EU citizen and you are thinking about coming to Germany to work for yourself, this video is for you. I want to walk you through the main rules that apply, and those rules are found in Section 21 of the German Residence Act. This provision distinguishes between two forms of self-employment: founding a company and working in a liberal profession. The rules which apply to these forms of businesses are different. Founding a company means, in this context, that you create some kind of structure or entity to produce goods or to deliver services. Typically, you employ people to do that, or at least you start the business with the perspective to do that. A liberal profession is something different. It means delivering intellectual services personally, services that rely on your own expertise, where the client comes to you specifically because they trust you and consider you an expert. And importantly, you are personally accountable for the results. Doctors and tax advisors are the classic examples. In many cases, the distinction is obvious. If you make shoes or build roofs, you have a company, no question. But when it comes to services, it can get less clear-cut. Here's a useful way to think about it. If you hire a cleaning company, the individual cleaners are more or less interchangeable. You do not have a personal relationship with them. But if you hire a lawyer, the personal relationship matters a great deal. You choose that particular person because you think they are competent and you trust them. That personal element, that is what characterizes a liberal profession under German law. I will come back to this distinction in more detail in a moment, because it really matters for the visa requirements. Let me start with the company route. Requirements for founding a company. If you want to come to Germany to found a company, you need to satisfy three conditions. First, economic interest or regional demand. German authorities will look at your business idea and ask, does Germany actually need this? Is there an economic interest or a gap in the market in a particular region? For example, if Germany has an interest in attracting more AI companies, and yours is doing exactly that, that would count. Or if you are offering something that is genuinely hard to find in a specific area, that could satisfy the regional demand criterion.
Second, a positive expected impact on the economy. The authorities want to see that your business will contribute something, creating jobs, stimulating other businesses in the area, that kind of thing. This overlaps a bit with the first criterion, but the focus here is specifically on the economic contribution you are expected to make. One thing worth mentioning here. For a long time, there was an informal rule of thumb that business visas tended to go to people who committed to investing at least 250,000 euros and creating at least 5 jobs. That is no longer the case. The focus now is on the quality of the business idea itself, whether there is a credible and compelling case for it. The authorities do not make this assessment alone. They ask the Chamber of Industry and Commerce, the IHK, or a comparable body, to give their expert opinion on whether your business idea is viable. Their assessment is not formally binding, but in practice, the immigration authority will almost always follow it. So the IHK opinion really matters. Third, secured financing. You need to show that your business is adequately funded. How much capital that means depends on your specific business plan. There is no fixed figure for visa purposes. One thing I should clarify here, because there is sometimes confusion. Many people set up a GmbH when starting a business in Germany, and a GmbH does require a minimum share capital of 25,000 euros, half of which must be paid in up front. But a GmbH is not your only option. There are other legal forms available, and you do not have to go down that route. As I mentioned, there is another pathway to work self-employed in Germany, namely by exercising a so-called liberal profession. Liberal profession is a term under German law. There are two types of liberal professions: regulated liberal professions and non-regulated liberal professions. Regulated liberal professions means that people exercising these professions must meet specific criteria to exercise this profession.
For example, to practice as a physician, you must pass certain exams. In addition to rules governing the access to a regulated liberal profession, there are also strict rules on how to exercise this profession. For example, there are specific rules on how doctors must exercise the medical profession. These rules are enforced by professional bodies, which are called Kammern, chambers in Germany. If you want to exercise one of these regulated professions in Germany, you must obtain approval by the chamber, which is in charge of your profession first. Important examples of regulated liberal professions are doctors, lawyers, architects, tax advisors. It is very difficult for non-EU citizens who practice one of these regulated liberal professions to start working self-employed in Germany right away. For most people, that is not a viable option. The second type are non-regulated liberal professions. There is no fixed list of what counts as a non-regulated liberal profession. It has to be assessed case by case. The question is whether the activity has the characteristics of a liberal profession. Are you delivering intellectual services personally based on your own expertise with a relationship of personal trust and personal accountability? On that basis, things like computer programming, management consulting, journalistic work, translation, or certain scientific activities could all potentially qualify. What makes this route attractive is that you do not have to meet the strict conditions I just described for company founders. There is no assessment of whether Germany has an economic interest in your work, no check on regional demand. Still, the potential economic or cultural impact of your planned activity may play a role. The capital requirements are also lower. There is no set figure, but starting out in a liberal profession is understood to require much less upfront capital than setting up a company. Authorities will consult professional bodies, even for non-regulated professions. This is typically done to resolve the decisive question of whether an activity qualifies as a liberal profession or a commercial trade, or to assess the expected economic or cultural impact of the work. What you do need to show is that you can support yourself, that the income from your work will cover your living costs, including health insurance. If you are at least 45 years old, you also have to meet some additional financial requirements. Your retirement must be provided for in an adequate manner. And it helps considerably if you can already point to some work lined up. A letter of intent from a prospective client, for example, can make a real difference. It does not need to be a formal contract. A written expression of interest is usually. So, to bring this together, Section 21 of the Residence Act gives non-EU citizens two routes to work self-employed in Germany. The company route comes with three substantive requirements: economic interest, positive economic impact, and secured financing, and involves an assessment by the Chamber of Industry and Commerce. The liberal profession route is generally less demanding, but the key question is whether your activity genuinely qualifies as a liberal profession under German law. How that plays out in your specific case depends on what you do, your qualifications, and your individual circumstances. A video like this can only give you the general picture. If you are at the stage where you want to look at your own situation seriously, I would suggest booking a consultation. You will find a link right below this video. I am happy to go through your case with you and help you figure out which route makes sense for you.